Elsewhere tonight, CBS2 has learned there may be a secret plan to evacuate Chicago in case of big trouble at the NATO summit next month. The Red Cross in Milwaukee is apparently reaching out to volunteers to help prepare shelters for any Chicagoans who are suddenly relocated. CBS2's Mike Parker uncovered the story.
CBS 2 News has obtained a copy of Milwaukee area Red Cross emails sent out to volunteers. The message suggests a possible plan to evacuate residents of the city of Chicago during the NATO summit. The conference, the email says, may create unrest or another national security incident. The American Red Cross in southeastern Wisconsin has been asked to place a number of shelters on standby in the event of evacuation from Chicago. That surprise disclosure has some folks who live downtown on edge.
A little unnerving?
Very unnerving. I feel a little bit unsafe, just a little bit, maybe a little bit more than a little bit. Doesn't make me feel like I want to be in the city during the NATO conference.
I'm lost for words because I absolutely have no idea what that entails.
According to a Wisconsin Red Cross spokesperson, the evacuation plan is not theirs alone. She told us, "Our direction has come from the city of Chicago and the Secret Service." However, officials at the Office of Emergency Management and Communication told us tonight the directive did not come from them. The Secret Service did not return our phone calls. The Chicago Red Cross office said only, "We are supporting the city in their NATO planning." A union executive who's been training his members in preparation for the summit believes such a plan might be over the top.
This could be a lot like Y2K. You know, a lot of hype and a lot of buildup. People will say that was it, not a big deal.
The idea of having to evacuate Chicago residents is, number one, a scary prospect, which could account for the reluctance to talk about it. Secondly, it's probably also highly unlikely. This seems to be a case of officials wanting every possible contingency plan on the table, just in case, Robin Case.
Still has to make people a little uneasy, nevertheless, though, Mike.
You don't want to hear about possible evacuations, but they're planning ahead. They don't want to be surprised.
Fair enough.
A pretty scary scene along the Chicago River turns out to be a military training exercise. Good evening, everyone. I'm Robin Robinson.
And I'm Bob Surratt. Thank you for joining us. Our viewers called in describing men with automatic weapons hanging out of helicopters. Fox Chicago's Mike Flannery reports on this developing story live from Lakeshore Drive tonight. Mike?
Well, Bob, about 90 seconds ago, two choppers came zooming right up the Chicago River here, close enough almost for us to touch them. For those of you who saw the movie Transformers that was shot in this same area, there was a scene in there in which Special Forces elite fighters in helicopters in battle formation came in, vectoring in on the Trump Tower behind me. It was a scene not unlike that in various parts of the loop this evening. You know what? There was a bland press release in early afternoon from City Hall that referred to, quote, a routine military training exercise. Well, there was nothing routine that folks reported about seeing the jarring, as they witnessed the jarring scene of at least 3 Black Hawk helicopters flying at times in close order formation, at other times separating fairly widely, zooming in and around residential office towers. We talked to several of those who were still a little bit shaken up by what they had seen.
And they were lower than my building in between the towers, so that did make me slightly paranoid. I text my husband, who's in the military, or was in the military, asking if this was alarming because I could see what color of clothing they were wearing. It was frightening. I was definitely alarmed.
I was pretty amazed because they were definitely military and there were definitely guys with machine guns. So I thought that perhaps there was some alarm or concern.
Who was in the helicopters that you saw?
Well, we saw military guys in the helicopters.
They were hanging out of the choppers?
Yep.
Three in a row. We saw 3 helicopters in a row and they kept circling around.
And again, various spokesmen and spokeswomen for several city agencies, including the NATO summit host committee, insist this has nothing at all to do with next month's NATO summit. Bob, I've got to tell you that some of the folks downtown here are not buying that at all, nor are they buying that phrase that was featured in the press release, quote, a routine military training exercise.
They don't think it's an early rehearsal for the summer air and water show or anything, do they?
No, they don't buy that either. They think it's very much related to what's going to happen next month.
Mike Flannery, downtown, thanks.